Chapter 55, Miss Hong. The Holy Maiden wanted to make her soul complete once more. First, she needed to know if Lin Jufeng was still alive. 30 years have passed since Lin Jufeng saved her back then. The young Lin Jufeng back then should be an old man in his 50s by now. His cultivation was destroyed and he was banished to the cold palace. Decades have passed since then, could he still be alive? The Holy Maiden was distressed. I shall send someone to the imperial capital of the Yuha God dynasty to investigate. I hope that you are still alive. I can make it up to you. The throne, countless beauties, or even the ability to walk on the path of cultivation once more. I can give them to you. The Holy Maiden picked up a piece of paper. After folding it a few times, an immortal crane appeared. Go to that famous Taoist mountain and find 2 Taoist priests. Ask them to go to the imperial capital of the Yuha God dynasty to investigate that matter concerning the dethroned crown prince 30 years ago. The Holy Maiden waved her hand, and the paper crane flew up. It flapped its wings and flew away. The Holy Maiden watched quietly. She suddenly thought of something and frowned slightly. In today's world, the first native person to break through to the human god realm is in the imperial capital of the Yuha God dynasty. What if those 2 Taoist priests fail because of that human god? She picked up another piece of paper and folded it into yet again another paper crane. When she was done, the immortal crane flew to the Buddhist sects in the Zhongnan area. 2 groups of people should be enough, right? The Holy Maiden muttered. But thinking about it carefully. What if both groups got into conflict with that human god? Let's get a triple insurance policy. The Holy Maiden folded another crane that flew toward the northern desert region. The Holy Maiden was being cautious here with so many backups up her sleeve. This should be enough. I shall quietly wait for their results. I hope that they will bring me good news. The Holy Maiden closed her eyes in satisfaction. And started to repair her divine soul. The world of Taoism consisted of many sects. But there were only a few publicly recognized top Taoist sects. Each sect occupied a famous mountain or river. They focused on cultivating the Tao, sitting in meditation, and watching the clouds rise and fall. They quietly observed the changes in the world. Among them, Mount Longhu of the Taoist sects was considered to be a holy land of Taoism. The foundation of Mount Longhu ran deep. Following that rain, many martial sages appeared continuously in here like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. 2 of the bamboo shoots quickly grew into towering trees. 2 human gods appeared on Mount Longhu, one of the sacred lands of Taoism. If news of their ascension got out, it would definitely shock the world. However, these 2 human gods were currently holding a paper crane and listening seriously to what the paper crane was saying. It's Miss Hong's voice, a young Taoist priest said excitedly. I thought that after we parted ways in the underground abyss, I wouldn't be able to see the fairy-like Miss Hong anymore. I didn't expect that she would actually take the initiative to contact us, the young Taoist priest said excitedly. The middle-aged Taoist priest by the side also nodded. The 2 of us were only able to break through to the human god realm thanks to Miss Hong's pointers. Although she looks like an aloof person, that is only on the surface. The real Miss Hong is very kind. The 2 Taoist priests were already old, but ever since they broke through to the human god realm and regained their youth, their mentalities also changed along with their appearance. With their age and experiences, not a lot in this world could excite them anymore. But Miss Hong was an exception. Senior brother Lu Yun, do you still remember that scene when we saw Miss Hong a year ago? The young Taoist priest recalled. Of course, I remember. There was an earthquake that split the earth that day and it revealed the entrance to an underground abyss. Countless demons and monsters were inside of it. Fortunately, that place was near Mount Longhu. We were at the 4th stage of the martial sage realm and we were the ones to suppress that crack. The middle-aged Taoist priest named Lu Yun lamented. I still remember that senior brother and I were full of confidence before we went in. But we couldn't last for more than half a day in that place before we were completely defeated. Then, at a crucial moment, Miss Hong descended from the sky. She was so beautiful to the point that I still find it hard to describe her beauty. She immediately got rid of the trouble and suppressed that crack on her own. She also helped treat our injuries. In addition, she even gave us pointers which helped us tremendously when we made our breakthrough to the human god realm. The young Taoist priest brimmed with excitement. With a trace of longing, he recalled the past. They were only able to make a breakthrough because of Miss Hong. Junior brother Haiyu, we owe Miss Hong our lives and the favor of guiding us. This time, Miss Hong wants us to go to the imperial capital of the Yuha God dynasty to investigate the situation of the dethroned crown prince 30 years ago. We must go, Lu Yun said. Of course we have to go. Even if the first human god is in the imperial capital, we still have to go there and investigate. Junior brother Haiyu nodded. We aren't going to make any trouble. We are just investigating the situation of that dethroned crown prince back then. It should be fine. The Yuha god dynasty probably doesn't want to offend two human gods like us anyway, Lu Yun said. We have to go now, we can't let Miss Hong wait for our results for too long. Haiyu couldn't wait any longer. He immediately left the mountain and headed in the direction of the imperial capital. Lu Yun shook his head and laughed. He also got up and went down the mountain. The Buddhist sects of Zhongnan once had a temple every 3 steps and a monastery every 5 steps. But after the 2 paintings suppressed the 2 Buddhist sects back then, they were demolished. The 3 sacred lands of the Buddhist sects were still around, but the number of believers in the Buddhist sects had sharply declined. They were no longer as glorious as they were back then. Both Shaolin Temple and Xuankong Temple had become part of the background that depicted the might of that human god from the Yuha god dynasty into the world. They were furious, but they knew that they temporarily couldn't do anything about it. As for the Dalan Temple that was spared from the catastrophe and didn't suffer any losses back then, it remained unscathed as it maintained its low-key appearance. In the Buddhist cave of Dalan Temple, there were many exquisite paintings. An old monk was sitting upright in front of a painting. In front of him was a flower. He held it with one hand and a smile appeared on his face. The smile of Buddha as he was plucking flowers. The old monk quickly turned young, transforming from an old man into a young man. I have no way of repaying your kindness, Miss Hong. The young monk sighed. 3 months ago, under the guidance of Miss Hong, he successfully broke through to the human god realm. A paper crane was flying in circles around him. The monk took the paper crane in his hand and put it up to his ear. He then heard Miss Hong's voice. After a while, the monk who had listened to it several times raised his head and looked in the direction of the imperial capital of the Yuha god dynasty. I shall go visit the most prosperous place in the world today. The young and handsome monk smiled. In the northern desert region, the earth was dry and the sun was scorching. A dark-skinned man held a paper crane in his hand as he carefully placed it up to his ear to listen. With his height of more than 2 meters, he held the little paper crane in his hands and listened attentively. His action looked just like a little woman. It looked out of place and awkward. But he was very happy. Miss Hong actually took the initiative to send me a message. This is a huge matter, I have to do my best for Miss Hong. Yuha god dynasty, the imperial capital, the dethroned crown prince. No matter what, I'm going. The only thing that I need to worry about in the imperial capital is that first human god. But I'm not going to make any trouble. I'm just going to look for information. This human god probably isn't so domineering, Iron Han mumbled. Then, he took big strides and ran faster than the wind. Lin Jufeng, who was deep in the imperial capital's cold palace, had no idea that 4 human gods were coming to the imperial capital to investigate his situation. He was quietly signing in, cultivating, improving himself, and refining the immortal treasury in his body. Why am I still unable to make a breakthrough from the immortal treasury stage? Lin Jufeng was puzzled. He couldn't help but ask the white cat. Chapter 56, A Person Forgotten by the Imperial Capital. Lin Jufeng's cultivation base was still at the immortal treasury stage of the human god realm. He was trying his best to unlock the treasures hidden within his body. But no matter how diligent he was, he felt as if his body was akin to that of a bottomless abyss. No matter what he did, something seemed amiss. As a result, he couldn't help but ask the white cat as to why he couldn't make a breakthrough into the next stage of the human god realm. The white cat looked at Lin Jufeng speechlessly. It moved its claws and wrote a few words. After so many years, its words were still as ugly as ever, but Lin Jufeng had gotten used to it already. To be honest, he was starting to think that its penmanship was somewhat adorable. You're already a human god expert, why are you still asking me this? Lin Jufeng was suddenly enlightened. Ah. To think that I forgot that your cultivation base is still not at the human god realm. My bad, it's my mistake. I won't ask you anymore. The white cat looked at Lin Jufeng. It was ashamed and furious at the same time. It felt that Lin Jufeng was intentionally humiliating it. His words didn't sound malicious, but their underlying meaning was shameful for the white cat. It wasn't slacking. It worked very hard. In fact, the white cat was already at the peak of the martial sage realm. Unfortunately, it encountered a bottleneck while it was a single step away from the human god realm. The bottleneck that it had encountered was the reason why it was ridiculed by Lin Jufeng. Meow. The white cat reached out its claws, wanting to scratch Lin Jufeng. But Lin Jufeng turned around and left it behind directly. I'm going to try and comprehend the essence of the immortal treasury stage. Guard the door well. Lin Jufeng's serious, yet seemingly casual manner of speaking further infuriated the white cat. It gestured with its claws while staring at Lin Jufeng's back. Its sharp nails had already emerged from its meaty claws. It was angry. Lin Jufeng's life this year consisted of his usual continuous signing in. Sometimes, he would purposely provoke and tease the white cat, adding a bit of fun to his peaceful life. Of course, the most important thing for him was to thoroughly comprehend the essence of the immortal treasury stage. There were many treasures within the immortal treasury stage. Physical body immortal treasury, divine soul immortal treasury, true chi immortal treasury, Taoist charm immortal treasury. These were the four great immortal secrets that Lin Jufeng comprehended within the immortal treasury stage of the human god realm. He had already unlocked the physical body immortal treasury. As a reward for his comprehension, his body's foundation was further solidified and strengthened. He could now kill someone of the same cultivation realm as him with only a single punch. Just this single immortal treasury alone increased his strength exponentially. For the divine soul immortal treasury, Lin Jufeng cultivated the innate soul refining technique and refined his divine soul into an avatar of himself. The true chi immortal treasury had revealed a secret door within one's true chi. From beyond that door was a world filled with ancient true chi runes. With his comprehension of the true chi immortal treasury, Lin Jufeng's every move now reflected those resplendent ancient true chi runes. The Taoist charm immortal treasury allowed Lin Jufeng to look at the very essence of the world itself. He could now reach out and feel the pulse of the great Tao. His heartbeat was now synchronized with the breathing of the earth itself as he walked on the ground. The four great immortal treasures increased Lin Jufeng's strength by 100-fold. He really felt that he could destroy this world if he wanted to. This feeling came along with his increase in strength. But despite all of these, he still couldn't make a breakthrough away from the immortal treasury stage. What exactly is wrong? Lin Jufeng wondered. I've read through the few books that describe the immortal treasury stage of the human god realm. However, what they have described seems to be vastly different than mine. In those books, the immortal treasury stage seems to be a simple stage to surpass. Lin Jufeng frowned. Opening the four great immortal treasures allowed his strength to continuously rise. Under such circumstances, he naturally wanted to break through the immortal treasury stage to enter the next small stage of the human god realm. I want to reach the peak of the human god realm as soon as possible. I want to see what's beyond it, Lin Jufeng said with a look of longing on his face. With his cultivation base, he might not be invincible in the mortal world, but he was still a top expert. Lin Jufeng had no interest in power and authority. Lin Jufeng wasn't interested in reputation either. Lin Jufeng didn't bother with seeking beautiful women too. He was only interested in one thing, the peak of the martial path. I have a hunch that the human god realm is definitely not the highest cultivation realm. It's just that any information concerning the realms beyond it seemed to have been erased. No one knows about it. Apart from a few mentions in those ancient books, there is nothing else. His motivation for reaching the peak of the human god realm was not that complicated. He simply wanted to find out what was beyond it. After I successfully conquered this great mountain known as the human god realm, the world in the future would definitely become even more vast and wonderful, Lin Jufeng said with desire flickering within his eyes. Lin Jufeng's desire and ambition were laid bare. His priority was to continue accumulating his strength, so he could surpass the human god realm as soon as possible. Imperial capital. Early in the morning, a young monk arrived. At noon, 2 Taoist priests arrived. In the evening, a man with a towering physique arrived. The 3 of them arrived at the imperial capital on the same day. They didn't do anything out of line, but each of them did something in common. They all went to look for an information broker. The young monk found an old man in the imperial capital. The old man was only 20 years old back then. He was a person who witnessed that piece of history. But for some reason, the old man and the others that the young monk visited all shook their heads in confusion. They all said that they didn't know anything about a so-called dethroned crown prince from decades ago. Of course, after asking so many people, there was bound to be someone that knew about the dethroned crown prince. But as for what exactly happened, after 30 years, he had long forgotten about it. Someone even said, the current emperor's lineage is doing so well, why should we still bother about that dethroned crown prince? Since he has been deposed, he must have done something bad. Why do we have to remember him? The monk was speechless. Unable to answer, he could only look for more people to ask from. But the people in the imperial capital really didn't truly remember the dethroned crown prince. The 2 Taoist priests, the towering man from the northern desert region, all found the same results as the young monk. The people of the imperial capital had completely forgotten about the dethroned crown prince, Lin Jufeng. After a busy afternoon, the 3 groups ate in 3 different restaurants in the evening. If one looked at their locations from above, one could see that they had coincidentally formed a perfect triangle that surrounded the imperial capital. But despite being this close to each other, they didn't discover each other's presence at all. They were afraid of causing a misunderstanding between them and that human god realm expert within the imperial capital. Therefore, they chose to restrain their terrifying cultivation base. The monk ate vegetarian food, the Taoist priests drank tea, while that towering man ate meat in large chunks and drank wine in large cups. They were all depressed. The variety of food that they were eating vastly differed from each other, but their feelings were the same, they felt helpless. The imperial capital is so huge, yet no one even remembers about that dethroned crown prince. Isn't that crown prince too low-key? The monk complained. Most people in this imperial capital don't know of any dethroned crown prince. They only know about Emperor Ming and Emperor Yuan. Perhaps we need to dig deeper into this piece of history. The 2 Taoist priests discussed. I don't know anything about the imperial capital, but since I want to investigate what happened decades ago, I can ask the servants in the palace. Some of the servants who were in charge of some duties in the past have already returned to their hometowns to retire. They must know something about it. Although this towering man had a boorish appearance, he was meticulous. He immediately thought of a solution to his conundrum. The young monk also thought of a solution. I can go to the royal family's clan residence and look through their dossiers. Even if that prince was stripped of his position, he should still be recorded within the dossiers of the royal family's clan residence. With that, I'll know if he's dead or alive. The 2 Taoist priests went to look for a former prince who was now a lord with his own land and riches. This former prince fought with Lin Jufeng for the title of crown prince back then and failed. Then, failed again his struggle with Emperor Yuan for the title of crown prince. After 2 setbacks, he was disheartened and decided to let go of everything. He became an idle lord and spent his day walking with the birds and having fun. He was now living a carefree life. The 2 Taoist priests came to visit him at night and revealed their identities. This caused the idle lord to turn pale with fright as he hurriedly welcomed them. He was just an idle lord, how could he offend someone from the sacred grounds of Taoism, Mount Longhu? Taoist priests, may I know why you were looking for me? The idle lord asked cautiously. He hoped that it wasn't because they wanted to rebel and they needed his help. He didn't want to rebel at all. He was now used to his lifestyle of being an idle and wealthy lord. We're here to find out more about that dethroned crown prince from back then, Taoist Lu Yun replied. The idol lord heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, his worst fear didn't come true. But he was stunned hearing Taoist Lu Yun's words. You want to ask me about my third brother, Lin Jufeng? Chapter 57, Forcing the Cherry Blossoms to Bloom All Over the Tree. Back then, this idol lord was young, high-spirited, and confident. He had always coveted that throne. Hence, he regarded Lin Jufeng as his enemy. He had never called Lin Jufeng, third brother, before. He was the eldest out of all the princes, and he was also the direct son of the emperor. Logically speaking, he should have inherited the throne. But the young Lin Jufeng was a genius. The former suppressed him and took the title of the crown prince from him. Later on, Lin Jufeng made a mistake and released the opposing dynasty's holy maiden. As a result, he took advantage of the opportunity to add insult to injury. He rallied the ministers to remove Lin Jufeng from the position of crown prince. He thought that the now empty position of crown prince was already in his bag, but when Emperor Yuan returned, the latter also suppressed him. It was as if history was repeating itself. Emperor Yuan took the position away from him. The two blows had thoroughly demoralized him. In the end, he became an idol lord and abandoned his ambitions. All these years, he didn't mention Lin Jufeng even once, nor did he think of him that much. 30 years had passed, and he was already in his 50s. He was already more than 50 years old, and the past had long been buried in the deep recesses of his mind. But right now, he was baffled. Why were these two Taoist priests looking for Lin Jufeng? Lu Yun and Hai Yu looked at the idol lord who was lost in his memories. They reached out and shook him awake. I'm sorry. It's just that I haven't heard of his name in a long time. Back then, Lin Jufeng was banished to the cold palace. Until now, he has never been released, the idol lord said. Lu Yun asked, then, is he still alive? He should still be alive. If he's dead, the clan residents should inform us of his death, which means that he's still alive in the cold palace. It's just that the conditions in the cold palace are tough. His cultivation base was destroyed back then. I wonder what kind of torture he had experienced over the past few decades inside that place. The idol lord sighed. The grudges he felt in the early years had already disappeared. There wasn't much brotherhood between them, but he pitied Lin Jufeng's predicament. After he made that mistake, I knew it would be difficult for him to turn the tides in his life. He's only bitterly waiting for his death in that cold palace, I bet. Why are the two esteemed Taoist priests looking for him? The idol lord asked curiously. Is his situation in that cold palace really that tragic? Junior brother Hai Yu asked in surprise. Those admitted into the cold palace so far had never lived a long life. They all lost their minds. Think about it, he has been staying there for about 30 years now, and that is equivalent to being continuously tortured for 30 years. Isn't that tragic? The idol lord shook his head and explained. That's pretty tragic. Junior brother Hai Yu couldn't help but imagine. Lin Jufeng's situation was horrible. Where is that cold palace located? Lu Yun asked. The idol lord replied, in a remote area in the west district of the imperial capital, there are a number of palaces with no one living in them. That's precisely the cold palace. No one is allowed to enter its premises without an imperial decree. Lu Yun and junior brother Hai Yu immediately got up to leave. Just pretend that we were never here. Lu Yun left behind a pill that he had refined through alchemy on Mount Longhu as his expression of gratitude to the idol lord. Then, they disappeared into the night. The towering man from the northern desert region found an old eunuch who served in the palace back then. Because of his advanced age, he was allowed to retire and return to his hometown. From this old eunuch, he learned where the dethroned crown prince was imprisoned. Before he left, the old eunuch told him, even if the dethroned crown prince from back then isn't dead yet, he should have already gone mad. It's okay if you want to find him, but don't make any trouble. The mistake he has made back then has yet to be forgiven. The towering man frowned. He couldn't help but whisper to himself, why did Miss Hong want to find this old and crazy dethroned crown prince? He couldn't figure it out. But since Miss Hong had given her orders, he had to complete the task. Taking advantage of the night, he went to the cold palace. Clan residence, dossier room. The young monk flipped through the records of the past and saw the records regarding Lin Jufeng. There was a brief summary of his existence. Every comment written about him on the records was negative. The dossier directly gave Lin Jufeng the title of a lecherous prince. The young monk closed the dossier and looked in the direction of the cold palace. He said, Amitabha, I hope you are okay. This way, I will be able to repay Miss Hong's favor. He also went to the cold palace. Tonight, the cold palace was as quiet as ever. Almost every building within the cold palace had no lights. Even the occasional light was also because of the moon. But tonight, the moon was covered by dark clouds. Hence, the cold palace was very dark. There was only one place with light. It was Lin Jufeng's courtyard. The courtyard was filled with bone swords. The set of bone swords that he received from signing in back then were still here. They remained inserted here for 30 years. Lin Jufeng had never used all of them before. But Lin Jufeng was in no hurry. It would come in handy sooner or later. Inside a pavilion, Lin Jufeng laid on the frost jade bed. His hands were placed on his chest as he closed his eyes and circulated the surging spiritual energy that entered his body. His true qi was currently producing ancient runes in his body. They entered his dantian and his dantian itself was starting to experience a few changes. Lin Jufeng combined the ancient true qi runes with his own cultivation technique to create something new. Dantian talismans. Each talisman contained a cultivation technique's essence. Together with the ancient true qi runes, the power it could harness was terrifying. Lin Jufeng was quietly accumulating his strength, preparing to amaze everyone outside. A white cat was curled up on one side of the frost jade bed. It cultivated comfortably on its own. The flickering candlelight illuminated their shadows and plastered them on the wall. The white cat's shadow was lying on Lin Jufeng's chest. It looked adorable. Tonight should have been the same as usual. An ordinary night. But Lin Jufeng suddenly opened his eyes and frowned. He sat up. Meow. The white cat was awakened by Lin Jufeng's movement. It opened its eyes and looked at him in confusion. Lin Jufeng said softly, "Someone's here." Meow tilde. The white cat also stood up and looked outside curiously. No one should be here in this cold palace. Even if someone did come, was there a need for them to be afraid? It's 4 human gods. Lin Jufeng scanned with his divine soul and he instantly saw through their cultivation realms. Meow. The white cat looked at Lin Jufeng in shock. A breeze appeared beneath its feet and it was about to slip into the underground palace. Why are you running? There are only 4 of them. Lin Jufeng snapped. The white cat wrote decisively. You are just one human god, there are 4 of them. They must have found out who you are. Now, they are here to get rid of you so that they could destroy the Yuha god dynasty. A scheme suddenly popped up in the white cat's mind. Lin Jufeng watched as the white cat's claws moved like a shadow. In a few seconds, it wrote a lot of words. Looking at the content of these words, Lin Jufeng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If it's a competition of numbers, then there should be no one who can defeat the emperor with his forces. Lin Jufeng chuckled. He raised a hand and flicked his finger. The white cat watched without blinking. It wanted to see if Lin Jufeng, who boasted all day long about how powerful he was, would be able to win against the 4 human gods. With a flick of his finger, a stream of true qi burst forth. It directly poured over the space outside. Boom. The true qi he had released was very thin, but after leaving Lin Jufeng's courtyard, it was like pouring a basin of cold water into a pot of hot oil. It instantly surged with power. Carrying the essence of the true qi immortal treasury that Lin Jufeng had unlocked, it directly ignited the spiritual energy in the air within the cold palace. In Lin Jufeng's eyes, the spiritual energy in the air became akin to resplendent lights as it directly covered everything around him. The cherry trees in the cold palace directly bloomed after being infused with this volatile spiritual energy. The fragrance of its flowers was refreshing. But for the monk, the Taoist priests, and the towering man, it was as if the sky itself had collapsed onto them. Just as they entered the cold palace, they saw a lone courtyard with lights. Like moths attracted to a flame, they walked over in its direction. With a common goal in mind, it was inevitable that they would discover each other's presence. But since they had no idea that there were other groups venturing into the cold palace, all three of them were momentarily stunned. At this moment, a streak of ancient true chi flew out from the lone courtyard with lights. Boom! It disturbed the spiritual energy in the air upon its arrival. Then, it directly ignited the night sky as the cherry trees around them bloomed. The pressure was akin to that of a boundless ocean. It caused the cherry blossoms to bloom all over the cherry trees, while at the same time, it forced the four human gods to kneel, preventing them from moving.